So it was never going to be easy to replicate Dali Atomicus. We've gone to a lot of work to create this set that you can see behind me. Let me talk you through a little bit about what we've done. The first problem to overcome was building the background, the walls. Using the original Philippe Halsman image as a reference, we created the wall to match. So in the corner there was a pillar with a dado rail, which we've applied here. Then there was a length of straight wall and then angled wall, as you can see. One of the complicated parts was it looked like there was a staircase landing. We don't know what it was in the shot. We couldn't find any history about whether it was a landing or what it was, but we built something to replicate that part of the shot, that position of the shot. Then we have the actual painting itself, Dali Atomica by Salvador Dali. This features in the Dali Atomicus photograph, and it was actually Philippe Halsman's inspiration for creating the photograph, because in Dali Atomica everything is floating, nothing is touching, which is why the same happens in the actual photograph. Then we have things like the picture frame, which was left empty, and Dali painted the picture into that afterwards, and the easel, which, as you can see, we have hanging suspended on wires. We had these two strange sheets of plastic on the floor that are in the original photograph that we had to match the shape based on the perspective of the camera. Now, the perspective of the camera was an interesting one because we didn't know the distance away from the set that the original picture was taken. It wasn't possible for us to understand that distance. There was no record of it. We don't know which lens. So we had to work with a preset distance and build the set based on that. In the original picture, there was also some wooden flooring, what looked like wooden flooring, but with a border. So we created that wooden flooring using this lino patterned wooden style floor here. Then the objects themselves, we have the hanging chair, or the chair that was suspended in the shot. So you can see we've got that on wires. Now, we couldn't obviously use flying cats in the shot, so I decided to change those for a couple of other items. Here I used a sort of replica of the melting clock, which is a feature of one of Dali's other paintings, The Persistence of Memory, where we have the melting clock. And I've actually set, I think, the clock to the right time as it was in the painting. And then here, I wanted something with a bit of energy. So I used a toaster with toast popping out of it. But instead of toast, I included a couple of my own pictures. And I also did a version with a couple of Life magazine covers to pay homage to Philippe Halsman. Let's move on to how we got all this in position here. Well, we used monofilament line, strong line, 3-point connections going up to our ceiling rig, which we had to rig up to our main girders of our studio. And that allowed us to get the overhead light, the main light in position, where we needed the light to create exactly the same type of shadows and lighting as the main shot. Each item is suspended, as you can see, and it was carefully positioned until we found the exact right position to match the original photo. So that was done very precisely and very accurately. Now, the lighting itself is quite complex. First of all, we had the main light, which we had to calculate the position of that main light to match the lighting on Dali and to match the lighting of the shadows on the floor. And importantly, this shadow on the wall down here was absolutely crucial, as was the shadow on the floor, because these are the clues, the visual clues that we were given from the original picture. And we used a single light source with a large reflector dish from up high above to recreate that lighting. But the lighting is far more complex than that throughout the rest of the set. To see that, we'll have to go over here. So, for example, the lighting on the toaster, it's highly reflective metal. Now, to catch a reflection on the metal here and on the metal here required lighting on the white floor. So this patch of light coming from this fluter here, illuminating down onto the floor, is the lighting that's giving me the lighting in the side of the toaster here. Here, the lighting that we're seeing is coming from a light patch on the floor over here. If we move on to the toast popping out of the toaster, this is lit by a very tight gridded light here, directing the light, making sure that it runs out of the main shot so it's not going to affect anything in the shot. Here on the clock, I've just got a subtle amount of light from a tight Fresnel beam on this Pico light running to hit the clock, but then it's dissolving away so it's not affecting anything further beyond that because only a subtle amount of light. We didn't want any light on the chair at all because in the main shot the chair is silhouetted, so that had to remain silhouetted as it does. More light was needed on the toaster. That's created by a subtle patch of light on the cove wall in the background, illuminating an area there, only very subtly, just enough to be picked up in the reflection in the metalwork. Now, in my shot, in my version of the shot, I wanted to add a little bit more than the original. So I've got the original picture, but I'm shooting on a high-res Hasselblad camera, and it's allowing me to shoot more wide angle to capture more of the set so that I'm creating something a little bit more unique. Now, to do that, I also wanted to capture the person throwing the water, because I'm going to have someone here throwing the water into the shot as in the original. A lot of people, the misconception is that the water is thrown from the right-hand side of the camera in, but actually it's thrown from the left. So I'm using this gridded spotlight here to capture a little bit of detail on the person throwing here. So at the moment, although the main light for the main shot was probably only a single light setup, and that single light is our main light, in addition, for the extra sort of details that I've added into the shot, we have the main light is one light, two lights, three lights, four lights, five lights, six lights, seven lights setup. However, as I say, the main Dali Atomicus picture was probably accomplished with one or two lights, having analysed the shot. The difference with my shot is that I needed to bring detail onto this and onto this in several areas, and because it's chrome metal, that required a lot of lighting patches on the floor to do that. Now, to freeze the action, because we will have our actor jumping in the air to represent Salvador Dali, and we've also got the liquid flying through the air, I needed fast flash duration. So again, I'm using my Broncolor Scoro packs, which will give me the fast flash durations to freeze that liquid and freeze that motion. The Atomicus means basically everything in suspended animation. So it would be no good if I wasn't able to freeze the liquid and freeze the actor in the air, because obviously the whole idea of the shot is all of these items suspended in animation, including Dali in the air and including the water in the shot. So from my main camera position, I'm able to determine my composition to match the original shot. And you can see very faintly the wires here, which actually in the final Philippe Halsman shot, they were retouched out in using traditional retouching methods of painting on the print. Here we can see that all my objects match up in terms of the pedestal, the painting, the easel frame, and the chair and the landing. But what I'm going to do is slightly different. I've gone to a wider angle lens, and my test shot on the wider angle lens reveals more of the set. So I'm able to retain a portion of the image that will be exactly the same perspective and match the original shot, but I'm also able to include more of the studio set, more of the whole setup, and more of the other people that are going to be in the shot contributing, such as throwing the water, cleaning up, helping with lighting, etc., that sort of thing. So I want to create my own version of the shot that we can zoom in on that matches the original picture. So here are two of my final results, and I must say I'm very, very excited with what the team and I have achieved here. Here you can see the wider angle version of the shot, but if I bring up the overlay of the original Philippe Halsman and Dali image, we can see that the position of the pedestal, the panels on the floor, and the extension of our floor itself even joins perfectly into our picture, into the original. The corner position of our wall on our set matches the corner position on the original, as does the angle of the lines of the back wall and the position of the easel. And then we very closely match Dali's position and the clock with the position of the cat, and also this landing in the top right-hand corner of the shot. But most importantly and most difficult was getting our actor to jump at the right moment and have the water thrown through the air at the right moment and captured in the right shape at the right time. This was always going to be the biggest challenge. And fortunately, we've achieved it. We have a similar position to the water, interesting refraction of light running through the water here on that particular shot, and the breakup of the water over the Salvador Dali painting of Dali Atomica in the background. So I'm extremely happy with that version. And we also have another version where we achieve a similar result. If we zoom in on the picture and I bring it in and we study the detail, you can see how our chair is silhouetted, how our actor has invoked that emotion of Salvador Dali. We have the flow of the liquid running through the shot and tailing off here, the panels on the floor, everything working really, really well to match the original picture. So I'm very, very pleased with what we've achieved in accomplishing this very, very challenging reproduction of this famous historical image.